Good morning and welcome to Sportuccino. It is Wednesday the 19th of October, a big night of Champions League football ahead for you as Pep Guardiola returns home to Barcelona. We'll tell you all about that and much more in today's programme, but here are your morning headlines. Pep Guardiola returns to his former club as Manchester City travel to Barcelona in the Champions League. Leicester made it 3 wins out of 3 in Europe with a 1-0 win over Copenhagen, while Spurs drew 0-0 at Leverkusen. And the coroner reports that Munster coach Anthony Foley died due to a fluid build-up in his lungs. So a great win for Leicester, 1-0 over Copenhagen. Riyad Mahrez with another goal in the Champions League. He really seems to be inspired by that Champions League music. We'll be talking about that and much more in just a moment. But I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by Barclays Eagle Labs. Barclays Eagle Labs allows businesses to create, innovate and grow using their co-working spaces and their private offices. If you'd like to know more about them, all you've got to do is go to labs.uk.barclays and also follow them on Twitter at Eagle_Labs. Thanks to them for supporting the show. If you would like to support the show, then just go to sportsdesk@sportuccino.com and send us an email. We'd really appreciate it. Well, I'd love to get all your thoughts on everything football and sport today, and we do that in the comments section on Facebook, but also on Twitter at Sportuccino, and use the hashtag Sportuccino. And every single weekday morning when we're live at 8 a.m, we do a brand new poll. So let's have a look at what our poll is today. And it is, who would you rather have in your team? Sergio Aguero of Manchester City or Luis Suarez of Barcelona? Of course, it's Manchester City away at Barcelona in the Champions League tonight. It's going to be a great match between the two sides. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the show, but I was really unsure who I would rather have in the team. As a Liverpool fan, I thought, oh, I love Suarez, he's a great player. But Manchester City, Sergio Aguero, he's always getting goals. He's really good. Let us know your thoughts on the Twitter page. We'll give you the results tomorrow morning on Sportuccino. And let's have a look at the results of yesterday's poll then. So yesterday, we were talking about the Manchester United versus Liverpool game from Monday night at Anfield, where it finished 0-0, bit of a bore fest if I'm honest. And Ander Herrera got given the Man of the Match award by Gary Neville. And we wanted to know whether you thought that Ander Herrera deserved the Man of the Match award in the match, using the hashtag Sportuccino. And 58% of you said yes, 42% of you said no. Pretty close, but it looks like you think that it was the right call. I personally felt De Gea deserved it. I know he didn't do much other than 2 world-class saves. Now, you know, very often you give the goal scorer a Man of the Match award, so why not give a goalkeeper who's effectively kept his team in the match? So, one more time, did Ander Herrera deserve the Man of the Match award last night? 58% of you said yes. We got a comment from Jack on the Sportuccino page, and he said, what exactly did Herrera do? We love your comments, we love your debate, keep them coming on Facebook and on the Sportuccino Twitter page. All right, so last night, a big night of Champions League action. As we mentioned in the headlines, Leicester beating Copenhagen 1-0. We had Tottenham drawing away at Leverkusen. Let's have a look at all of last night's results. And as you'll see, Group E, the Spurs result, as we mentioned. CSKA in Moscow, they drew 1-1 with Monaco. Very interesting there. Lassina Traore, who scored the goal for Moscow. He's on loan from Monaco. We saw that happen earlier in the season with, I think it was Benfica. It was a late Bernardo Silva equaliser. And did you know that the CSKA goalkeeper, Igor Akinfeev, has now gone 10 years without having a clean sheet in the Champions League? Absolutely unbelievable. Group F, Real Madrid 5-1 winners against Legia Warsaw. They had a big win at the weekend, did Real at Real Betis. Bale among the scorers as they won again. Also in that group, Borussia Dortmund, they won 2-1. Patrick Emerick Aubameyang on the score sheet for them. Group G, it was a super strike from Leon for Porto, probably the goal of the night for me. Some people say that they like Cuadrado's, some people like Bale's, but for me the goal of the night was Leon's for Porto. It was a late Andre Silva penalty which gave Porto that win in Belgium. Leicester winners, of course. Leicester now have 9 points in that group, 5 points clear at the top of Group G. And in Group H, Samir Nasri got the only goal of the game for Sevilla against Dinamo Zagreb, while in France, Lyon lost to the Italian champions Juventus. Juan Cuadrado got the winner, but it was all about Gigi Buffon. He made a penalty save and a string of fantastic saves against Lyon. Last week we questioned whether he really was as good as he once was after he made a mistake for Italy. He made a mistake against Udinese as well at the weekend when they conceded an early goal but ended up winning 2-1. But he showed he's still one of the world's great goalkeepers. Now tonight we've got Barcelona versus Manchester City and we've got Arsenal against Ludogorets. And joining me now is a man who's just recently written a book about Arsenal. It's called The First Football Histories, the Arsenal FC story. Mark Rasdall, welcome to welcome to not to the best in the world. Welcome to Sportuccino. I'm getting used to my other podcast. Mark, so you've recently written a book about Arsenal. They're facing Ludogorets tonight. They've been unbeaten now since the first game of the season. Are we expecting a walkover, do you think?
Well, it's always worrying when you talk about walkovers and big clubs beating little clubs, isn't it? I think we should remember that Ludogorets have been Bulgarian champions 4 seasons in a row. They're certainly not going to be a pushover. I remember 2 years ago they got a last-minute equaliser at Anfield in the Champions League. They've changed their manager. Quite a few squad members have gone, but the new manager, Bruno Ribeiro, I remember watching him at Leeds, and he knows all about English football without a doubt. I think one thing that came to my mind this morning when I was thinking about this show is that 25 years ago, Arsenal played Benfica at Highbury. They'd drawn 1-1 away, and then, Benfica went on to win with 2 goals in extra time. Arsenal thought they were practically through. There are always occasions when you think you've actually nailed it and things come back to haunt you. I think Ludogorets are a pretty good outfit. They scored at PSG. They got a draw at Basel. There are no easy games, are there, Richard?
They definitely aren't in the Champions League. And Ludogorets have got a striker in Jonathan Cafu who's got 5 goals in his last 6 matches. And he's facing a defence which is still letting in goals. They're still getting used to each other. You've now got Mustafi playing alongside Koscielny. Do you think the Arsenal defence will be able to cope and keep a clean sheet against Ludogorets?
Well, keeping a clean sheet is another thing, isn't it? When we talk about Arsenal, you and I will remember the famous back line and the George Graham years and, lock it up and take the game. I don't think Arsenal have been that kind of team for a long time. I think Mustafi will be a fine acquisition. I remember him being in the Everton Academy side some years ago under David Moyes, but never really got game time. I think that the player that Arsenal really need to worry about is Marcelino, because he's a natural number 10, a great playmaker, lots of assists, I believe, in the Champions League already. He is the player they're going to have to watch. But Arsenal are going to go out and play their expansive game, aren't they? That's what they do. And we saw against Swansea again on Saturday, the game was definitely Arsenal's in the bag. And, it was a struggle at the end.
And I've got a stat here. Ludogorets have not been beaten away in 7 matches. So they could quite easily come up just to set their stall and not allow Arsenal to get through. We'll get back to a bit more about Arsenal in just a moment, but let's talk about Barcelona versus Manchester City. In fact, I'd like to get your opinions on today's poll, Mark. Who would you rather have in your team? Would you rather have Aguero or Luis Suarez?
Well, it's a very difficult question, of course. I suppose on balance, I would probably take Suarez. I think Aguero is one of those finishers. I know he missed a penalty on Saturday, but he's one that you would put your money on to score when he's in that position. I'm not sure how many positions he's going to be in tonight against Barcelona. But I think with Suarez, he's just one of those players that can conjure something out of absolutely nothing. He can be out of the game and suddenly get a winner. Whereas I think Aguero requires, players like De Bruyne and so on, more creativity around him. Suarez can do it on his own. So I think I would go for Suarez every time. I wish Suarez was still in the Premier League, I have to say.
He was really great in that season where Liverpool nearly won the Premier League title. So Guardiola returns to Barcelona, Mark. Where do you see this match going tonight?
I think you have to favour Barcelona. I mean, the only thing you would say is if you're an engineer and you build a machine, then you're the best person to maintain that machine. Guardiola won, I think, 14 trophies in 4 years at Barcelona, so he's also the person that will know how to stop the machine. The problem is, I'm not sure whether City really have enough to do that. You've got to look at the top three of Barcelona always. Messi came back at the weekend and scored again. I don't know whether Company is playing tonight. You may know that.
I don't have confirmation, Mark, but he really is a big player they're missing. I was just thinking about that.
Yeah.
Because if you remember Guardiola's sides at Barcelona, he always had that player who had to play alongside Piqué, who wasn't necessarily a defender. So he did it with Mascherano. Yes. He did it with Song. And he's trying to do the same at City. I think he's tried Fernandinho there. He's tried Kolarov, who's normally a left back. It's makeshift. Do you think they're defensively stable enough to get a result?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they had some fine displays away from home in the Champions League last year, where people didn't give them a prayer because obviously they were under pressure in the Premier League. I'm not sure. I mean, I think Otamendi and Stones, you have to say that's a work in progress. And you really don't want to be going to the new camp as a work in progress, any team. I also think Barcelona will be inspired by the fact that Real got 5 last night. For the last 2 years, they've knocked City out in the qualifying stages. So I have to say, I think Barcelona will win, and I think they will win comfortably. I think maybe if this tie had happened later on, and of course it could happen again in the kind of later rounds, I think I would give Guardiola's team a better chance. But I don't think Guardiola has got himself organised sufficiently with the players he needs yet.
Now, let's say City lose. That'll be the 4th game in a row where they haven't won. They drew with Celtic, they lost to Spurs, they've drawn with Everton. Let's say they do lose heavily at Barcelona. Does that become a crisis all of a sudden?
Well, it's certainly going to put them under the spotlight even more than they are now, and I think they've got a little cup tie against Manchester United next week, which won't help either. But I mean, they came out the blocks, didn't they? I mean, they won, was it the first 10 games, and they looked absolutely unbeatable. But it also shows you with teams like that, when one of your key players gets injured, it stops, and De Bruyne is obviously the creative force in that team. He's only just came back at the weekend. I'm not sure how fit he is. And I think it will depend on keeping your best players fit. And for City, I think that's a concern.
I think you're right there, Mark. I think Kevin De Bruyne's a very, very good player.
Yeah.
Did you watch the football last night? Did you see Leicester? What did you think of their performances? It's amazing how they're doing so well in the Champions League, but stuttering in the Premier League.
It's almost a reverse of a cliche, isn't it? That when you get knocked out of the cup, you kind of console yourselves by saying we're going to concentrate on the league. With Leicester, it seems to be the other way around. I think they've got more points in the Champions League than the Premier League this season. And it's almost as if last season, as we all know, can they stay the pace? Can they do it? Will they actually go on and win the Premier League? And it's almost as if they're saying, well, no one gives us a prayer in the Champions League this season either, so we're going to prove everybody wrong. Incredible. Also, I don't think they've conceded a goal yet, and yet in the Premier League they don't look like the kind of defensive force, or maybe domestic teams have worked them out. I'm not sure, but great for British football. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's fantastic. When they play in the Champions League, I want to watch Leicester, which imagine 3 years ago, I'd have been like, Leicester in the Champions League? No way.
I know, it's crazy.
I wouldn't even want to watch them if they were in the Champions League, but I want to watch them every time now. But you're completely right about the defensive frailties, because you look at Diego Costa's goal, for example, on Saturday, and he scored it completely unmarked in the penalty area, whereas defender left him completely unmarked. And Leicester of last season wouldn't have done that.
They wouldn't have done that, and I think Kante going to Chelsea, I know it's an easy excuse to make, but I think that when you have a player like Kante in front of your defence, he's breaking so many things up, all the time, and it's all the things he's doing on the pitch that you don't notice, and you only really notice a player like that when he's not there. And I think he'll be a fine player for Chelsea, and Leicester undoubtedly miss him in front of that defence, I think.
Well, Mark, let's go back to Arsenal for a moment. Of course, you've recently written a book called First Football Histories, the Arsenal FC Story. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, I think the thing is that when you're reading about football, there's obviously a story of the club and how it evolved. I mean, 130 years of history in Arsenal's case, but there are also so many other things going on around it. And what I wanted to do was try and encourage teenagers in particular to get back to history, not just about football. So they're reading about Arsenal's history, they're reading about the Boer War, they're reading about the Cold War, they're reading about all kinds of changes that have happened in Britain in the last 130 years. And they're also finding out about where places are. So, a lot of people who will be looking at the match tonight won't have a clue where Bulgaria is. I've got a friend who's a teacher, and she thought that she would have a geography lesson for year nines, and they would plot all of the Premier League teams on a map of England. And how many do you think they actually were able to do, Richard?
Yeah, not many, I don't think.
3 out of 20. And, this is just incredible. So I'm trying to write books that actually talk about the football stories, but also about history and also about geography, to try and give people a better understanding of the role that clubs play, and also the things that happen in the world that affect clubs outside of our football bubble. And that's what they're really all about. So, yes, Arsenal came out about a month ago, and Chelsea is next.
It is amazing what you can pick up about other things when you have a particular interest in one thing. For example, I'm a massive WWE fan, and I now have this really random knowledge of knowing which American cities are in which states. Like you'd say St. Louis, I'd say Missouri. You say Boise, I'll say Idaho. All because wrestlers come from those certain places. And it works. I remember I met the son of Johnny Vaughan, the radio presenter, and he must have been about 8 or 9 years old at the time. And he just had an encyclopedic memory of all of these different places, of all of the heights and weights of every wrestler. And I think what you're doing is a really, really good idea, because people will go, oh, I remember when Arsenal won this happened. So I think that's really great. So you've done Arsenal now. What else is in the pipeline? Are there other teams you've got plans of books you're going to produce?
Yeah, well, Chelsea should be out before Christmas. That's a completely different story to Arsenal. People think that Chelsea is all about Abramovich, and sort of the recent years. It's really not. Chelsea were a very wealthy club from the start, and Arsenal were dirt poor, absolutely dirt poor. It's incredible to think that we're talking about the Champions League game tonight for a team that everybody hated at the time, because the gentility of Kent did not want a football team when they were based in Woolwich. So Chelsea's next, Spurs after Christmas, and then West Ham and Palace.
Well, we look forward to reading all of them, Mark. Mark, where exactly will we be able to buy them?
Yeah, Amazon. They're available on Amazon. You can buy the book, and you can also get the books in Kindle format as well. So hop along to Amazon and you'll find them on there, Richard.
I look forward to reading. I've got a Kindle. I love the Kindle, so I'll download them and read them as
Fantastic.
well. Mark, any other websites, any other social media handles where we can continue to learn from you?
Yes, well, there's a website at www.thefootballground.com, which is really a kind of portal for all club information. So, for example, if you're looking forward to tonight's game as an Arsenal fan or a City fan, There are pages on there full of content all about news, social media feeds, everything, blogs, forums, TV schedules, just about your club. So rather than spending a lot of time cruising around the web trying to find content, you can find it all there. It's all free, easy to use, and we're on Facebook and Twitter as well, Richard.
Wonderful one, Mark Rasdall. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Author of the first Football Histories, the Arsenal FC story, and from the footballground.com. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Richard.
Great to hear Mark Rasdall this morning. Now, I know I made a little bit of a slip up when I introduced Mark by saying this is the best in the world, and that's because every single Wednesday I produce a brand new podcast on iTunes, on Stitcher, on richardparr.net, my own website, called The Best in the World. And every week we interview an Olympic champion, a world champion, a former world record holder, a former world number one in all different types of sport. And what we're trying to do is find out what they do differently from you and I, what they do differently from other athletes and sports stars, which makes them the very best. And it could be anything from nutrition to daily routine, to training schedules, to home environment, to time management, to meditation, all different types of things. They're all the different categories and topics we cover in The Best in the World with Richard Parr on iTunes. This week, the brand new episode out only 2 hours ago, I think, on iTunes is with Tom Shields. Tom Shields was part of the 4x100 meters medley relay team from the United States, which won gold at the Rio 2016 Olympics. He was part of the heats, but he wasn't too impressed with his performance in the individual events. So I've got a little snippet of today's podcast right for you now.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
My individual races weren't there at all at the Olympics, which is unfortunate, but I haven't watched them because obviously it's been hard to kind of deal with that, because it's like, oh man, this is the biggest meet of my life, and I didn't perform anywhere near my level, let alone at a competitive level, even though I didn't make a final.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
So there is The Best in the World with Richard Parr with Tom Shields, the Olympic swimming champion. Download it today at iTunes. It's really easy. richardparr.net/iTunes. I would love to get you as a listener. Now today's Sportuccino is brought to you by Barclays Eagle Labs. Barclays Eagle Labs provides co-working spaces and private offices for businesses to create, innovate, and to grow. That's what we all want to do in our business, and they can help you do that. If you'd like to know more about them, all you've got to do is go to labs.uk.barclays or follow them on Twitter at @eagle_labs. Thanks to them for sponsoring today's show. Really appreciate it. So we mentioned a few of the matches in the Champions League tonight, and let's have a look at all of them. So Group A, we mentioned Arsenal versus Ludogorets. We've also got Paris Saint-Germain versus Basel. Paris Saint-Germain, they're unbeaten in their last 11 matches at home, but this season they've already lost 2 matches in total, and that's as many as they did in all of last season. Group B, Dynamo Kiev versus Benfica, while Napoli, they could be the first team to go through after 3 games of a group stage if they beat Besiktas. They're on the verge of history. Will they do it? Let us know on the Facebook page. We've already spoken about Barcelona versus Manchester City in Group G. Barca unbeaten in 17 at home. While the other match in that group, Celtic versus Mönchengladbach, neither have won in this group yet. Of course, Celtic had that 3-3 draw with Manchester City, but got hammered. I think it was 7-0 against Barcelona. But their striker Moussa Dembele, he's got 15 goals in his last 17 for club and country. While in Group D, Atletico Madrid, last year's runners-up, they're looking for their 3rd win in a row against the debutants Rostov. And Bayern Munich face, not Paris Saint-Germain, PSV Eindhoven, in fact. It's the PS bit. PSV Eindhoven, but Bayern, they haven't won in 3 matches. Carlo Ancelotti, he made a fantastic start as the manager of Bayern Munich. 8 wins out of 8, but they are now struggling, having not won in 3. So that is tonight's UEFA Champions League matches. We'll be reviewing all of them tomorrow morning with Johnny Gould from 8 a.m. on facebook.com/Sportuccino. I hope you are there to join us. All right, it's that time of the day where we try a brand new health and fitness product. No Quest bars today, no choking. You know, we realise that it's probably not good for me to eat, but no one says I can't drink. So this is the Aspire Health Drink. Multivitamins, green tea extract, helps reduce body fat, 0 calories, 0 sugar. This is the mango lemonade flavour, but crucially we want to know, does it have 0 taste? All right, let's open this bad boy up. It's a can, nice and easy. It's not bad. Do you know the fizzy drink Rio? It tastes a bit like Rio. It's quite refreshing. In fact, it's like a diet Rio. But I honestly, drinking this, opening it, I thought it would be disgusting. And it's not too bad. And I'm not really a big fan of mango either. So it's been formulated by nutritionists. They've been created with a unique blend of good-for-you ingredients, such as green tea extract, that helps to increase fat oxidation and reduce body fat. They're best supported by a balanced, healthy and varied diet. Well, yes, obviously. Learn more about them at aspiredrinks.com. Let's have a look bit more at some of the nutritional information. Yeah, you've got vitamin C, vitamin B6, B12, I don't know what that is. We'll have to get a nutritionist to tell us a little bit more about that. But yeah, the Aspire Health Drink, multivitamins. Let's, in fact, let's get my producer, Matt. Matt, why don't you come and try this? Give us a taste. Let's see what you think. Yeah? You know, because I want this to be more than just my review. What do you think of it? Have you had it before? Oh, he's trying. I think he's enjoying it. He's licking his lips.
Better than yesterday's bar.
Better than yesterday's bar. So unfortunately, the poor people at Quest, they won't be too happy with me because we haven't been too positive about the Quest bar. But this isn't too bad. The Aspire Health Drink. I paid 92 pence for it from a Holland and Barrett nearby. I'm not a big fan of fizzy drinks unless they're Coca-Cola, really. Yes, I know Coca-Cola's not good for anyone, but it's a vice. You know, we all have them. Would I buy this again? 92p for a can? I probably wouldn't. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. I know you pay £1 for a can. I probably wouldn't go out to buy it, but if it was on like a table of drinks, would I drink it again? Yes, I probably would. So that is the Aspire Health Drink. Whether it actually helps to reduce body fat, I don't know. I'd have to drink it very regularly as part of my balanced diet, but I'm not sure about that. But that's the Aspire Health Drink, mango lemonade flavour. Not too bad. That is today's product review. If you have a health or nutrition product of anything, it could be a tech app, it could be a drink, it could be a protein bar, then give us an email, sportsdesk@Sportuccino. We'd love to hear from you. All right. We're nearly at the end of today's show, so let's have a reminder of today's headlines. Pep Guardiola returns to his former club as Manchester City travel to Barcelona in the Champions League. Leicester made it 3 wins out of 3 in Europe with a 1-0 win over Copenhagen, while Spurs drew 0-0 at Leverkusen. And the coroner reports that Munster coach Anthony Foley died due to a fluid build-up in his lungs. So another Sportuccino done and dusted. We've looked back at last night's Champions League. We've looked ahead to tonight's big games, including Barcelona versus Manchester City. We've learnt about the history of Arsenal with Mark Rasdall. And we've also tried out the Aspire health drink, Mango Lemonade. If you've got any thoughts on any of last night's matches, any of tonight's games, anything about health and nutrition, put a comment on our Facebook page and on Twitter. All right, so that's it for today's show. We're back tomorrow morning, 8 a.m, facebook.com/Sportuccino. Please like the page. We've got Johnny Gould joining us tomorrow, reviewing all of the Champions League action and also looking ahead to Robin van Persie's return against Manchester United with Fenerbahce in the Europa League, plus Inter Milan versus Southampton. All of that and much more tomorrow morning from 8 o'clock.